Oops, sorry, Matthew.
Sorry, Matthew.
I'm gonna turn the heater thing off. Oh, so fucking cold here. I know I'm not gonna say that anymore to a man who lives in Pennsylvania. All right.
Is it colder there?
I think so. It's like all snowy and shit, like all the time. It's been an unusually cold. In my mind, I mean, you're a California native. I've been here 31 years, but in my mind, this is the coldest winter I've experienced here.
Definitely in recent memory, for sure. I don't.
Right. 31 years. Since November of last year I've been cold since November of 2022.
Yeah.
And I'm never cold.
Yeah. I mean, it's we can complain to each other
while Matt's listening. I tell him when he doesn't have to listen anymore. I say banter from 0 to 4.32 seconds.
It's so cold.
I'm so cold, Matt. I'm cold. It's getting dark and it's cold.
All of the palm trees are freezing.
Shedding. Yeah, I
have to wear long pants instead of shorts.
Instead of your cargo shorts every day of every. I used to do that to Mark, and he used to get so mad. I would be like, "It's getting cold and dark," and he would be like, "Stop it! Stop it! I can't. I'm having trouble seeing you." I'm a terrible person. Hi, Matthew.
Good morning, Matt.
I love you more. Warm. Yeah, I love you more. In your 3-bedroom, 3-bath, our Airbnb that you live in.
He lives in a 3-bed, 3-bath Airbnb.
Yeah. Well, no, he just has a lot of people that visit him.
His home is
3 beds, 3 bath, and he only has 1 butt, but he has 3 bathrooms.
It is a nice butt.
It's cute. It's very cute. Yeah. I'm very jealous. Mine is flat, and his is nice and round. You have the best butt, though.
Well, thank you.
I'm no offense, Matthew, but Joshua has a great butt, and he's now dancing, and it's really sad. Okay, stop it.
I'm appreciating your nice cushion.
Is it generous. Helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one I used to have, and I have my purple one now, which is.
It's a used butt cushion?
Yes. I wiped my ass on it numerous times and then gave it to you. You are welcome. I was usually wearing pants, though.
Usually.
Yeah, that's the key word. All right. Let's get. Oh my God, that was a big, loud fucking gulp.
Excuse me.
Wowsies. Okay. Let's get all of our coughing and shit out of the way. From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production, and welcome to the Just the Tip-Sters. Okay, I'll do that. I forget the name of the podcast I've hosted for 5.5 years. Okay. From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast, and I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. And today with me is my beautiful and talented co-host, Joshua Bevan.
Ni hao, Zoigandima.
Ni hao ma. I don't even know what that means. Hello.
It means hello.
In Cantonese.
How are you?
What do you?
Because we're really big in Macau. You told me.
So is that how you say it?
I'm learning Chinese.
Oh my God. All right. I don't know the difference between Mandarin and Cantonese.
I don't either, but this is Cantonese.
Wow. Okay. I thought I was saying Cantonese. Ni hao ma. I think that means how are you? Or something?
Well,
all right. So I can't believe you're fucking learning 4 languages. You are so dedicated and devoted to this podcast.
Eventually, we're gonna have to do a tour, right? Like
sure. We're gonna do live shows and shit.
So I'm gonna really need some conversational.
I have something else for you, which you probably know how to speak. I don't know what they speak there, but we're now big in Costa Rica.
Yes.
Is it Spanish?
Spanish. Yeah.
Okay. So, but is it like Spanish, or is it like Basque, or is it? I don't know.
Well, there's a Costa Rican dialect, but
okay,
it's Spanish.
Okay.
I mean, if I go in speaking my high school butchered
white
Spanish
man thing, it'll be okay.
I actually sound like Keanu Reeves when I speak Spanish.
Oh my God, this is so perfect.
Yeah,
so perfect.
Yeah.
From Bill and Ted.
Yeah,
you kind of a
hola, como estás?
Surfer Spanish.
Yeah.
It's so perfect. So this is so beautiful. I can't even tell you. So hi Costa Rica.
Hey, welcome Costa Rica.
Macau. Yeah.
Leave us some reviews, please.
Sure,
Tell us where exactly you are.
Yeah.
How you came upon the podcast.
Exactly. Why I get once a week something. It's called Chartable, and they send you where you are, like in their rankings, and it's like you're on the charts in the United Arab Emirates, and then it's like, oh, you're out of the charts, but then you're on the charts in Macau, and then you're out of the charts, and then you're on the charts in Costa Rica. It's like it's very interesting, and I'm like, wow, this is so. I'm so universal.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
You
international.
Mr. Worldwide. What's up?
That's what you call yourself. Yeah, that's what you call yourself. Okay, so I wanted to say thank you to Tipster Christina from Alabama. She sent us a lovely email, and it totally made my day. It is very humbling when someone discovers the podcast and they say wonderful things like, they listen on the way to and from work, and they're at work listening, and they start laughing, and their coworkers don't know why they're laughing. And
Yes.
I love that. She said sometimes she has to go to the bathroom to laugh out loud because her coworkers don't know what's happening.
Right.
So that made
That's
me very
awesome.
happy. Thank you, Christina, for finding us.
That's awesome.
An announcement that our friends from the Graveline tour, Adam and Blaze, have a new tour
Oh.
under the Graveline umbrella. It's the Epic Manson's Murderous Spree Tour.
Oh.
So I'm pretty sure Joshua and I are going to be doing that in the
Oh,
future.
yeah.
If you are in LA, if you are visiting LA, if you're from LA, it's just one of the things we would recommend that you do, like 10,000%.
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun.
This is not a paid advertisement.
No.
This is us saying how much we love this. The whole enterprise. I mean, if you go to graveline.rip/tour, you get to see pictures of the Cadillac funeral coaches, like the one we rode
Hmm.
in. They have like the doors open. You can see the
Oh, cool.
interior.
Okay.
You can see some of the stars that are profiled in each of the tours. And I think they just recently, looks like they've upgraded the website because it's really user friendly.
Oh, cool.
You
Okay.
can see everything. And they
Cool.
now have about 4 or 5 different tours. But it was so
Oh,
funny
right on.
when Adam, the owner, said, I don't know if you're a Manson Melissa, which I thought was funny. He goes, well, I think it was last Saturday was when
Okay.
they started
Oh, they
it.
just start.
Yeah.
And Blaze, when we were going, she mentioned
She did the
pulling
Manson one.
not Man. I don't think she
No,
said
she
Manson.
mentioned
She
like
mentioned
the
working on something else. Oh, that would have.
LBTG. I don't know how the initials.
Yeah.
LBG. Yeah.
LBGTQ.
Thank you. All those. They have that kind of tour. I think it's called oh man, they all have such funny names. They're really
Okay.
funny. But yeah, The Death Becomes Her is the one that Joshua got me for Christmas. That is, I can't recommend more highly. That is very similar to the original Graveline
Okay.
tour. But they have, ones that go through Hollywood, through West Hollywood, through Beverly Hills. It's, it depends on which stars you want to see. They actually are now going to have a specific one for the Black Dahlia.
Oh, just Black Dog.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have some tours coming up. So
Okay.
yeah,
I'm totally down. This is
when
awesome.
Adam let me know, I was very excited about that. So, I always kind of say I don't understand why people listen to us on YouTube, but I get some of the most interesting comments from YouTube subscribers. I got one from Tammy is Awake Now. That's her handle. And she listened to episode 147 about the Stevenson murders. And then she said, are you going to be doing an update on the links to Delphi? And I said, I didn't want to do that, madam,
Hmm.
but we did it in episode 263 and how there really isn't a connection,
Right.
but I wanted to mention that. Excuse me, Matt, I had to belch. And Joshua's tummy had to
Apparently.
make terrible noises
It's
because there's a demon living inside of him. The YouTube subscriber Humanimal,
Mhm.
I'm going to say it's a he, was having difficulty understanding what I was saying in the first interview with Coy Cox about the VDOC Society. And I say it, in the overly enunciated French way, VDOC. And he was like, are you saying VCon? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. I was like, no, sir, I actually covered sort of the history of Eugene Vidocq, the 19th century French criminalist, who I call one of my boyfriends. He's kind of known as the father of criminology. And there are others, that were around his time or before him, like Locard. The theory of Locard is you never enter a room without leaving part of yourself, and you never exit without taking something with you. You know, a
Oh, okay.
hair, DNA sample of some sort.
Sure.
You leave something of yourself and you take something with you. And that's how, he would catch people
Sure. Okay, that makes
back
sense.
before there was, a whole lot of science behind it. But VDOC was just way ahead of his time.
Cool.
Totally way ahead of his time. There's things that he implemented we still use today. Like he solved cases by using plaster casts of foot impressions
Okay, and
in the early 19th
wow,
century. Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah. And the thing that's so great about him, I just could go on and I don't want to because it was episode number 92. Please listen if you would like to know more about Eugene Vidocq and why we use his shit today. He was a criminal. He was a French criminal who broke out of many prisons. He was a draft dodger. He would change his name and run, and he broke out
Huh.
of like 6 prisons. And then he was so good, they like pardoned him. And then he became a private investigator and
Wow.
started working on the other side because who knows better?
Wow, that's really cool.
He's fascinating. It's a great episode because I am madly in love with him. So, alrighty. So, um, I had an interesting experience on Friday night, and I was telling Joshua about it. And this is where we're recording on a different day because my neighbor had his pool resurfaced, and he was jackhammering like a maniac, and we really we couldn't record yesterday. So here we are today, and I've been dying to tell Joshua the story so much.
I'm so excited.
Oh
I
my
didn't sleep
goodness.
last night because
Okay, it's not that good, but it's to
you
me it's exciting. You're going to be like, "Wow,
well
this is fucking boring, bitch. Why did you like
you
hype it up?"
built it up so
I know.
much.
Now I got to deliver. I think you're going to like it. I think I love it. And it's not something I can tell everyone because not a lot of people will get it. I've only told 2 people. One of them is a true crime genius, Suzanne. So I knew she would understand the context and the details. And the other was my best friend Angela, who hates true crime but loves me. So I
Mm,
had to tell her the details, which are a little bit grisly. But I think you're going to be baby bear. You're going to be right in the middle.
okay.
I'm hoping you like the story, and I think you will.
Okay.
So, episode 128 is an interview with John Grobman, and John has recently been um, promoted to the COO of Paws for Life
Oh,
Canine,
okay.
which is where we got Siren.
Siren came from. Okay.
He has a fascinating story, and if you listen to episode 128, you'll hear he spent 13 and a half years in prison um, after being sentenced to 6 life sentences plus 40 years for 3 nonviolent felonies
Jeez.
involving, embezzlement, burglary,
You
theft, trying
said
to get money for
check
drugs.
fraud or
Hmm.
something? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Something silly, right.
I do believe that's a very large calling card for the California 3 strikes law is a abysmal failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is someone who should never have been in that kind of a situation. So I had dinner with him on Friday night, and he's a character. So I can't remember. I mean, they train inmates to train dogs. So he is all over the state,
Okay.
taking dogs, training. He also trains entire fire departments, like for Santa Clara, Santa Rosa, Santa Barbara,
He
all the
trains
Santas.
he trains the firefighters how to train their dogs?
Yes.
Cool.
He trains veterans with PTSD.
Oh, cool.
He trains dogs and gives them to veterans with PTSD.
Way cool.
Do you remember the Saugus school shooting
Mhm.
several years ago? One of the females that was shot but survived, they gave her a dog.
Oh,
That basically is her lifeline.
yeah, wow.
It's I can't recommend this organization, more than I do. So
Yeah.
John's a bit of a character.
Okay.
So and he is not into like true crime at all.
Okay.
He's like not, just this is not his thing, but he knows it
Because he's in the
yeah,
world, yeah,
yeah.
sure.
So, he said, uh, my, my third day in Vacaville prison, I had breakfast. He goes, do you know Ed Kemper? And I'm like, hi, have we met?
Okay.
My name's Melissa. I know I'm going to have to
For
explain to you.
for
I know,
people who
I
don't
know.
know,
And
like me.
Joshua, I know. I'm like,
Who's-
yes, I know Ed Kemper as you dumb fucker. Yeah.
okay.
So Ed Kemper is known as the co-ed killer. And he's kind of a piece of shit more than most people that are killers because he wasn't really He killed young women. A couple of them were in college, but not all of them. But I think he wanted to give himself a moniker. So he's the co-ed killer.
Okay.
He hung out in cop bars in Northern California, like listening to cops talk. And, he was like obsessed with that kind of world. And
Okay.
I have mentioned him to you before, and I am sad that you don't remember because of, even though he killed many young women, which is terrible enough, the thing that I always remember, I was very angry that he got to do voiceovers reading audiobooks for the blind because I don't think his voice is very,
Okay.
good. And then I was angry when they were asking him to be the FBI apparently, and I don't even know if it's true, but the rumor is the FBI asked him to be a consultant on the Idaho 4
Okay.
in Moscow, Idaho,
Okay.
because
And you
they were
totally
co-eds.
mentioned him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he killed his mother and her best friend. He ripped out his mother's larynx and fucked her neck hole.
Jesus.
Because he said that'll get her to shut up.
Oh my God.
So, cut to dinner with John Friday night.
Okay.
And he goes, you know Ed Kemper? Yeah, John, I know Ed Kemper. He's kind of a, you remember that sort of story. And he goes, yeah, my third day in Vacaville, I'd met a guy and he was, a friend and kind of showing me around. And he goes, we sit down at breakfast and he introduces me. He's like, Ed, this is John. John, this is Ed. And by the way, Ed Kemper's about 6'8".
Okay.
He's a genius. I hate to say that, but he is a genius. And, he's a bad human being.
Okay.
So he's having breakfast with Ed Kemper, and he doesn't know who Ed Kemper is. But as they get ready to leave, his friend turns around and says, hey, Ed, did you really keep all those body parts in your freezer? And Ed goes, no, that was just the media. So John's like, who the fuck's Ed Kemper?
Right.
So his friend tells him, and he's like, wow. Now this is John, okay? This is what John does. I think you and John would be very good friends because you're both horrible devil's advocates who poke and poke and poke and poke.
Oh no. Oh no.
A couple days later, John, who was very smart and was given a lot of leeway in the prison, he was an assistant to wardens, an assistant to jailers. He worked in offices. He's like, a very intelligent man, a computer guy. If you prove that you're trustworthy, you get, more duties instead of working in the laundry.
Sure. Cool.
He is in some office, and I do not remember the female supervisor's title. For some reason, I'm thinking some sort of a law thing. So he was in her office, and she's showing him around, and she goes, oh, by the way, there's the printer. If you need to print anything off, it's right by my assistant Ed's desk. And he goes, Ed? And she goes, oh, yeah, Ed Kemper. So you know what John does?
Oh no. Oh no.
And I don't know if I'm going to say this right. I'm probably not going to say it right because I'm not a computer person. He writes or installs a macro that makes it to where every time that Ed turns his computer on, it shuts down.
Yes. Yes.
And I said, you fucked with a serial killer. And he goes, well, yeah, I don't know. A few days later, he's in his cell. He hears his name being called down the hallway. John Grobman, John Grobman. And he's in his cell. 6'8", Ed Kemper comes up to the bars and says, what did you do to my computer? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. And he goes, my supervisor told me she showed you. And I love that I make him sound like Buffalo Bill.
Right.
My supervisor told me that she showed you where my computer was. Right. And now it's not working. And he goes, it was working fine when I left. I don't know what you're talking about. And he said he gets real close to the bars and goes, the guards are going to be coming down the hallway in a minute, and they're going to open your cell, and you're going to come out, and you're going to go to my office, and you're going to fix it. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. The guards come down and open it, the doors, and he won't come out.
Oh, shit.
So he doesn't come out. They close the door, and I'm like, you fucked with. Yeah. So that every time he's telling me, I go, and then he cut out your larynx and fucked your neck hole?
Right.
And he's like, nope. And I go, and then he cut out your larynx and fucked your neck hole? Nope. A few days later, another worker in the office, John tells him, he goes, it's a very easy fix. So he told the guy how to fix it, and he fixed it, and then Ed Kemper didn't talk to him anymore.
Oh, okay. So he really just didn't fix it. He refused to fix it.
Yep.
Wow.
He didn't acknowledge. I know he's you. You were the same person. Yeah, he refused to admit that he knew anything. He knew anything about it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
A 6'8" serial killer.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand John is not his, his type, but still.
I, oh my god, that's so awesome.
I was like, you are so fucky. You're so fucking lucky you are
Oh,
alive.
oh my god. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweetest, nicest man on earth, who is like, you might be surprised, but even in the depths of my addiction, I never even held a gun. I've never held a gun. I'm like, yeah, but you went up against a fucking serial killer who could rip out your larynx and fuck your neck hole. But he didn't. But yeah.
And then never acknowledged it.
Nope. But
So,
told somebody else how to fix it.
right. And yeah.
Yeah.
To move on without
Yeah.
ever acknowledging it. That's amazing.
He's the Bill Clinton of,
Oh my
cellies.
god.
Like Bill Clinton's like,
So
deny,
good.
deny, deny. Like, I did not have sex with that woman.
Uh-huh.
I let her blow me, but I did not have sex with her. And he's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, man. It was working when I left.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's our John.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
You're right.
glad
I
you
like
enjoyed
him.
this story. Yeah. You were the same person, basically. You were literally the same person.
Oh,
So this case comes to us from YouTube subscriber Dreamin' is Free.
well. Okay.
And I'm going to say a female, but I don't know because a lot of people have weird little pictures and avatars. I think hers is her. I'm going to call her is a cat, like a black and white cat. And
Okay.
she said after listening to episode 263 about how there's no connection between Delphi and the Stevensons, she said, "Hey, is there any connection between Delphi and the case of Lisa Kopanakis?" And I'm like, look, we cannot connect every murder in Indiana
Sure.
to the Delphi case.
Right.
But what I did find is a very fucking interesting case. I feel there's absolutely no connection, just even time wise. The timing is so different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Richard Allen would have been a child if, because he killed Libby and Abby, allegedly killed Libby
Mm-hmm.
and Abby in
Yeah. Right.
2017. And Lisa was murdered in 1989.
Oh wow. Okay.
Wait, what's that? It was a fucking car.
It was it.
I think so.
I thought it was gonna be a plane, but
I think it was a fucking car.
yeah.
Sorry, Matthew. All right. So, one of the things I love about having a retardedly expensive, maybe it is a plane,
They're doing circles.
probably crop circles
Yeah.
over his pool,
It's part.
crop
it's
jackhammering.
it's part of his
Yeah.
his construction.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's their the contractors instead.
They have small planes.
They like drop something out to
Yeah. Yeah.
crack the
Yeah. Yeah.
concrete.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, gosh. So, if any of you have a subscription to newspapers.com, it is really helpful, especially on old cases, which I do not like old cases, but it's very interesting to find old articles and the way things were expressed and the way journalists spoke. It's very interesting to me. It's pretty expensive, but and I realized I hadn't used it in almost a year, and I thought this is the perfect one to use for this case, the perfect resource, and it couldn't have paid off more.
Nice.
And we're talking in Indiana, which has some really good, really terrific. It's NWI. I think it's Northwest Indiana has like the Northwest Indiana Times has great journalists who are just great writers and really erudite and use like terrific, like a turn of a phrase.
Right.
And then there's Maud. So the Vedette Messenger of Porter County, August 7th of 1989. Now, Ken, the journalist, redeems himself, but Ken Koski, his first article about Lisa's murder, the headline is Death May Be Murder.
Okay.
23-year-old Lisa Kopanakis was found at her home that she shared with her husband, bludgeoned with her throat slit and covered with a rug.
Maybe.
Do you think it's maybe
It's
murder?
maybe. Oh my god.
I when I read the headline, I was like, Oh no, Ken.
Mm.
No.
Oh no.
Death may be murder.
Uh-huh.
And he was waiting for the police to give the, go ahead. I
Yeah.
think there's so many other words he could have used
Yeah.
that would have maybe not said the word murder, but didn't have to ask a question
Right.
or pose a question. Pretty
Right.
sure she doesn't bludgeon herself, slit her own throat, and then cover herself with a rug.
Right. Fell down the stairs and
And then bludgeoned herself and then slit her
right.
throat and
Yeah.
then cover
This is a
herself.
total accident.
And then she ran over herself. Yeah. I was like, Ken. So yeah, that was, it's like an autopsy. I think she was murdered on like a Friday night, Saturday morning. That's the time frame, I think. An autopsy Sunday determined the cause of death, but further tests will be done to pinpoint the time of death. And it is a really interesting case. Now, he does, like I said, redeem himself. A few weeks later, on August 26th, the same Ken Koski said, Portage murder is crime of the week. So Portage is the town in Indiana. And I'm just going to tell you, as soon as I saw that, I got like my ass slammed shut and I got hives because I swore I'd never, I have numerous times said I'll never cover another case from Indiana. And that has not been true. I do. Portage is a city in Porter County. Porter County is the place I had the most trouble with of any law enforcement agency I've ever dealt with. The Porter County Sheriff's Department, I can't. I can't. It couldn't have been right. Okay. So a few weeks later, they do have a very vibrant Crime Stoppers organization that still works with that area in Indiana. So it was the Portage crime of the week, which it should have been. This 23-year-old, beautiful newlywed who is, let's just go on and say it was murder.
Mm-hmm.
But the really interesting thing is about 5 months earlier, the crime of the week in that area also involved her because her dogs, she and her husband were out on Easter Sunday for a few hours, came back. Their two small terriers were bludgeoned, their throats were slit, and they were covered with a rug.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Weeks earlier?
5 months.
5 months earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
She and her husband, George, moved to a different apartment.
In between?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's creepy.
Moved to a different apartment in the same complex. George was a little bit older than her. Lisa had. Let me find the details because she's this very young. If you see pictures of her, she's like so beautiful, and she got some like weird beauty queen thing. But so she's 23 years old, Lisa,
Mm-hmm.
and she was in her final semester at Indiana University Northwest, and she was finishing up an accounting degree, and she had just started her new life with her new husband, George Kopanakis. They got married August 21st of 1988, and then George moved into her apartment in Portage. And then March 26th of 89, when they were probably visiting his family for Easter, a
Mm-hmm.
large Greek family,
Mm-hmm.
they came home and found that their patio door had been forced open.
Jeez.
They entered the apartment and saw this horrific scene. Their two small terriers had been slaughtered. The
Wow.
dogs had been bludgeoned, stabbed, and their throats were slit, and then a rug thrown over top of them. The entire
Hmm.
apartment had been torn apart, but nothing had been taken. So back then, that case was featured on Crime Stoppers' Crime of the Week, but nobody came forward with information. The police thought somebody had to see people. It was the middle of a Sunday
Sure. Oh,
in
in
an
the middle of the
apartment
day. Okay.
complex. Yeah, in Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
So this upset them so badly that she and George moved to a different apartment in that same complex. It's the
Right.
Cherrywood Trace Apartments. They moved to a different. And there's a very intelligent poster on Reddit. Her name is The Bones of Autumn.
Mm.
And she actually has been given like awards by Reddit, like top poster for 2021 and 2020,
Okay.
because her posts are so detailed and researched and complete.
Oh, cool.
So she has a map of the apartment complex,
Hmm.
so you can see it's kind of on like an L shape, corner. It's on a
Okay.
corner. So they were at this one apartment, and then they moved around the
To
corner
the
to a
other.
whole different unit. But it sounds like both of them were probably on the first floor,
Okay.
which I think it might be a mistake, you know? Usually, if you're a single woman, you don't want to be on the first floor because people can get in easier.
Hmm.
Usually, you want to be at least on a second floor. But I mean, she had her husband.
Sure.
However, and there's information about him a little later. I'm pretty sure I found who he is. I mean, I found who he is now. He worked a lot out of town.
Oh.
There were reports that he was like with the construction crew. It's a little different than that. I think he was like a civil engineer.
Okay.
So he's a little older than her, and I think he'd gotten a degree in civil engineering and construction, but he was, probably more of a supervisor at that point.
Got it.
It is his alibi is that he was with a group of his workers at a restaurant hundreds of miles away.
Okay.
They believe she was murdered between 8:30 p.m. and 4:30 a.m.
Okay.
Probably like rigor mortis,
Right.
because she wasn't found until the next day
Wow.
on August 5th of 1989 when George's sister, Nikki Kopanakis, couldn't get a hold of Lisa during the day and
Mm.
called her and couldn't get a hold of her. She goes by the apartment and asks the manager to let her in and finds Lisa bludgeoned, stabbed, her throat slit on the floor of the kitchen with a rug over her, the
Jeez.
exact way the dogs were murdered 5
Yeah.
months earlier.
Yeah.
So she calls George and he comes back immediately. This was at like 4:30 p.m. on August 5th. And they think she was murdered sometime between 8:30 p.m. and 4:30 a.m. on
Got it.
August 4th overnight to August 5th. And then, her sister-in-law finds her.
Right.
There is only one partial fingerprint lifted from the apartment. That's the only evidence.
Really.
Mm-hmm. One fingerprint that didn't belong to George or Lisa.
Okay.
Odd in a stabbing case, typically, stabbing, you cut yourself, whether you know it or not.
Oh. Oh. Okay.
Maybe because it was 89, it's apparently it's I've never stabbed anyone or anything, but if you're
Yet.
yeah, the day is young, my friend. Keep it up. We'll see what I can do. It's slippery and you slip
Sure. Okay.
past the
Well.
hilt and cut yourself.
Right. That makes
So
sense.
maybe they
And then it gets
didn't.
mixed.
Or
Yeah.
your blood is dropped and
Like you're
it's not matching anyone else
right.
there and it's yours. So I don't know if they didn't take, you know, all of the correct evidence or, yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
So the neighbors are like, we don't know what you're talking about. We heard no noises. There were no strange comings and goings. The police are like, look, this apartment complex is big and busy, and I don't know how their dogs could be killed in the middle of the day and nobody see it, and we don't
Mm.
know how Lisa could be murdered, even if it was overnight, how somebody couldn't see somebody coming and going.
Right.
They really, are like pushing for people to come forward, and it's very
Mm.
heartbreaking. So there's this, I don't think it's a coincidence that their dogs are murdered. I mean, it's very unusual to cover a body. They say that's remorse. I don't know if that's always true. It's usually if you kill someone you cover them because you don't want to see
Oh.
what
Okay.
you've done. Or I've heard, perpetrators say, I didn't want to see them looking at me, whether their eyes are open or it doesn't always necessarily mean that you knew the victim, but it's pretty fascinating.
Well. Yeah. The.
It's
I don't know.
personalized and targeted. This
Yeah.
isn't a
I
rando.
feel if my first question
Hmm.
is what kind of shady stuff is somebody else in? Like what the dogs were a message and then the
Thank
wife was
you.
like
Thank you.
what's going on? Like
Thank you.
who's into what?
Thank you. I think George is, from everything I can find and see now, he's like in his early 60s, if it's
Okay.
him, which I think it is. He, I think, is a guy in a family. I don't know if his family's into other things, but
Okay.
you'll hear something that might
Yeah.
lead to what you're saying.
Like that's okay.
Right.
Okay.
So 9 years prior to Lisa's murder, a man named Gus Rotopoulos was bludgeoned to death and then dumped out on US 6 in Portage. He was beaten with a baseball bat and then thrown from a moving car and then run over.
Oh, jeez.
Gus is married to Demetra. Demetra is George Kopanakis' aunt. George is Lisa's husband.
Okay.
So her husband's aunt is married to a man who was bludgeoned, run over, and dumped out of a car,
Okay.
and his murder is unsolved.
And his murder is still unsolved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are those cases related?
Well, okay, are you asking me? Because I
Uh-huh.
had I'm that's my question. Are
Yeah,
they?
I think it's a pretty good one.
I mean,
I think it's a
yeah.
pretty good
Okay.
question. Where is the thing about her? She's this beautiful. I wanted to mention this beautiful. She was like, I know it doesn't matter, but it does kind of matter. She's this beautiful brunette with these big blue eyes, and she was voted something like Indiana's prettiest eyes. Like a beauty pageant that you
Sure.
would have in
Okay.
the Midwest kind of
Okay.
thing. And she really did have these exquisitely beautiful eyes, and she wanted to have a family
Hmm.
and was so happy to be married and had these little dogs. And then, you know, this happens.
Yeah.
So this is 1991. So it's almost 10 years. And it's also Ken Kosky from the Vidette Messenger. And he redeems himself here a little bit.
Oh.
So it's March of 1991. Um, Her mom, Lisa's mom, is really having a hard time. And I couldn't find out if she is still alive. I think she might be. And if she is, I really hope somebody can do something because this woman expresses things that I think the family members of victims have a hard time expressing. She expresses
Mm.
her anger very clearly,
Okay.
not pinpointing anyone like law enforcement or whatever. She just is like, I, I've given up. Why should I have hope? It's breaks your heart. So Linda, Lisa's mom, says, every moment I'm not working, I think about Lisa. So does my other daughter, Gwen. We both have nightmares. We break down into tears. We have a hard time keeping the will to live. We're both very outgoing people, both of us, but things have changed so much that we don't even go out. And I notice my daughter is the same way. One night a few months ago, I cried for 6 solid hours. My doctor has put me on medicine, which I hope means antidepressants.
Sure.
I didn't realize how bad it had gotten until I couldn't get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
This is 9 years
Man.
later. She says, I don't sleep well, neither does my daughter. She could not have survived without me, and I could not have survived without her. Right now, we can't be without each other because we're all we have left.
Yeah.
I mean,
Man.
it's so heartbreaking. Her mother says, I've benefited from counseling. So has my daughter, Gwen, but the pain still remains. There's no pain like the loss of a child. I've never been through anything like this. The pain will always be there. But if this ever gets solved, Gwen and I could probably sleep again.
Mm.
So her mother, Linda, has written to TV talk shows, the series Unsolved Mysteries, newspapers, just hoping somebody will cover the case and that someone saw something, someone entering or leaving the apartment the night of the murder. She says, I want somebody to please, please help us. There's nowhere else to go. The longer it goes, the more people forget, and I don't want people to forget her. I know the only way this will ever come to anything is through somebody else. Somebody saw something that night
Right.
and they won't come forward. And I'm going to give the number for Crime Stoppers as well as the Porter County Sheriff's Department. So her mom says, and this is another one that just breaks my heart, and somebody had to explain to someone else who posted this what this meant. every year, Lisa's mother, Linda, goes on Christmas Day and puts a grave blanket on Lisa's grave. So, a grave blanket is a very large thing of flowers.
Oh, okay.
She puts a grave blanket on Lisa's grave and she says, "That's what I give her every Christmas. That's all I can give her now."
Man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. It's like all I can do now is put flowers on my daughter's grave and not just like a bouquet, a blanket. Here's your
Right.
Christmas. She said, "I hope she knows I'm trying to still keep her warm."
No.
I
Oh
know.
my
I
gosh.
know. And she says, "Why would I have hope? Nothing has ever transpired. Absolutely nothing." I mean, you don't hear a lot of parents express that. I'm glad that she's expressing it. I'm sorry that she ever has to.
Yeah. Right.
So this wonderful Reddit poster, the Bones of Autumn, says there she found an article, and I found it too, that Lisa's stepfather, uh, Linda's second husband, Steve Hanlon, was the former Portage County city attorney.
Oh.
And some people were wondering, did he piss somebody off while he
Mm.
was the practicing city attorney?
Okay.
There's lots of reasons people have other, I don't even want to call them red herrings because they might be legitimate.
Right.
George's uncle being murdered and it unsolved,
Sure.
um, her dogs being murdered first and then
Yeah.
her stepfather being the city attorney. In a small town, you can piss people off and they do terrible things.
Right.
I mean, in a large town too, but
Yeah.
in a small town. And the fact that George's uncle Gus, his murder's never been solved, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But apparently, Steve Hanlon was very well loved because a bunch of attorneys got together to form a reward committee. So
Mm.
it started at $1,000, and I believe it went up to 20, which
Mm.
back then was a lot of money. 30 years ago, $20,000
Yeah.
for a small town. So, oh wait, hold on. I didn't highlight this part, so I guess I don't want to read it. Oh, so there's these theories like, okay, George is out of town. It's the perfect alibi. Did he give someone else a key?
Mm.
You
Okay.
know, because I someone was alluding that there was usually a key available, and why did her sister-in-law Nikki have to ask the apartment manager to get in? So the
Well,
extra key might have been missing
oh, they normally keep a key under the rock, under a
somewhere.
mat or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So he's with a group of his coworkers at a restaurant. I honestly don't think George had anything to do with this, other than maybe he is in a family of people that might,
Right. Some.
you know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it is kind of the perfect alibi.
I mean,
You're out of
or
town
it's
with a group of
or
people, or
or it
it's
actually is the
true. Yeah, yeah,
true
yeah.
perfect alibi. I
Yeah,
mean,
that he
it's
was not ever
right.
there. The
Yeah.
dogs, when they were murdered, the back sliding glass door had been broken, and that's how they entered. There was no signs um, of forced entry when Lisa was murdered.
Wow.
People are thinking, was it someone in George's family that she knew, or someone that she knew and she let them in?
Yeah.
The um, the theory is between 8:30 p.m. and 4:30 a.m. on a Friday overnight to Saturday is an odd time if your husband's out of town, and it's an odd time to have like guests. They were like, "Oh, maybe she had a lover,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't think so. She was very, very happy. A newlywed who was happy, still going to school, working, and couldn't wait to start her life and have kids.
I mean, sure, or appear at least appeared all of that, and
Right.
it sounds thin though.
It does. I mean, there's not anything
Because
backing it up.
what's with the dogs
Right.
in that
Right.
theory?
Here's the other thing. See, that's how smart you are. People are like, why would George have anything to do with this? Why would he kill his own dogs? If he wanted to have his wife killed, why wouldn't he just have his
Yeah.
wife killed?
Yeah, that really feels like a warning, like,
I think you're right.
or a demonstration of,
hmm
listen, we can get to you.
Right.
Do whatever it is that
We want to do.
we want to happen, or else,
hmm
you know, and they're and th- we're gonna kill your wife,
hmm
or your daughter-in-law,
Yeah.
your
Yeah. Yeah.
niece-in-law, whatever.
Right.
I don't know, some.
Right.
and that the dogs was a demonstration on how easy that we can
I think
do
you're
it, right?
absolutely right.
Like,
It does it's everything is way too close. There are no coincidences in
yeah,
my mind. There's no coincidence. Things are, it's just way too close. It's not like, oh, we break in and we kill dogs for no reason brutally.
right.
And then 5 months later, the woman who owned the dogs, she ends up killed
Yeah,
the exact same way. Yeah, there
yeah,
that's not a coincidence in my mind.
yeah,
That's just not a coincidence. Like, why would he what would be the motive of him? They were, had just been married a short period of time. Were looking forward to all these wonderful new things in their life. They didn't have to get it wasn't a shotgun wedding. They didn't have to get married because Lisa's pregnant and he's resentful.
yeah.
He's like building his career. She's, she worked at like a sports exercise weight loss place or something. So
Okay,
but she was still going to school to
right.
get her degree in accounting, and he had graduated and was building his career, which by the way, he's still at
Okay.
40 years later. If it's the same one, which I think it is. I, you know, your nosy friend had to like dig around a little bit, right?
You Facebook stalked him, is
A
what
little
you're saying?
bit.
Yeah, okay.
And LinkedIn and right.
Yeah, okay.
So this was an interesting tidbit before I get to what George is doing now, which seems very much like it's probably him. A neighbor of Lisa and George said, I was a next door neighbor and friend of Lisa's. We shared the same porch. So that makes me wonder if their second apartment wasn't also a first floor.
Oh, okay.
The
Sure.
first one was a first floor because the slider was broken into
Right.
to kill the dogs. To me, why wouldn't you go up a little higher, find something? And it's at least a two-story apartment complex because I looked at the pictures
Okay.
and the map. Why wouldn't you go up a little higher? Maybe there wasn't a two-story available.
Wasn't available.
Yeah. So this neighbor said, I don't know if this is true. Days before her murder, Lisa told me she purchased a gun
Oh.
because a neighborhood kid told her that he saw someone standing at her back door looking in.
Hmm.
She also confided in this neighbor. She did not like her in laws. She did not trust anyone in George's family.
Mhm.
She's not Greek, and that had been a problem for his mother. Lisa said she was despised by his mother, even though she had converted to being Orthodox.
Hmm.
She said her mother in law told her, you're too independent and outspoken.
Okay.
I do not want to cast aspersions on George's family. However, you know,
Yeah.
right. So Portage is a small town, but it's also kind of a bedroom community of Chicago.
Okay.
Apparently, there was a lot of Tony Soprano like suburb mob people. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like people who are in the mob but maybe work in garbage collection or
Or
tree
construction or
trimming or
yeah.
construction.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. There apparently there's rumors that someone in George's family had mafia ties. I That's just a rumor.
Yeah.
It's fairly interesting. So I'm not putting George in with his family except that they share a last name.
Okay.
George, if this is him, probably could be. He's now in his early 60s, which would be an appropriate age. He got his degree in construction and civil engineering from Purdue. He's been a longtime project manager at a nuclear division of a business in Chicago.
Mm.
He's on a George Kopanakis is on the advisory board of Purdue University. That's his alma mater.
Okay.
Uh, I believe it sounds like it could be him, but
Okay.
I'm not going to contact him. And I did try to find Linda, Lisa's mom,
Uh-huh.
but I feel like this woman has been through enough.
Sure.
I don't know if she would want to talk to me. I always prefer to
Right.
start with law enforcement, but the Portage County Sheriff's Department it's so uncomfortable for me. I'm not going to contact them either.
Right.
So the best I can do, because I honestly swore I would never cover another case from Porter County because
Mm.
it was so terrible. The Diane Sherman Young case was so bad. I just thought first of all, I was like, I'm never going to cover another case from Indiana. That did not work out.
Okay.
I have done that, but I'm not going to contact the Porter County Sheriff's Office again. But I am going to ask if anyone has any information about the Lisa Handlin Kopanakis murder. Please, 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 for Linda, her mother, and Gwen, her daughter, contact Crime Stoppers, and you can do that anonymously at 1-800-342-7867. And I'm going to give the Portage, Indiana Police Department, because it's not the Porter County Sheriff's Department.
Mhm.
It's the agency that first was the lead on Lisa's case. And that is 219-762-3122. And I think somebody has to know something. If you aren't afraid of retaliation, like what happened to Lisa or her
Right.
dogs, I really hope you'll call. I really hope you'll call. And more cowbell.